What's up, guys? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more of our videos. Also, make sure you follow us all over social media so you don't miss any of our content or show announcements. All right, let's get into our mailbag real quick before we get out of here. So, first question, this was in relation to a thread of defensive Milwaukee Bucks clips that I put together. They had a really ugly defensive fourth quarter against the Cavs the other night. This first question. It's impossible to win games with Bobby Portis and Pat Connaughton playing meaningful minutes on your roster in 2024. Giannis and Dame combined with 75 points and 18 assists to 1 turnover and lost. So here's the thing. It's ugly. I put a whole thread of these clips together. Go to my Twitter feed at _JasonLT. You can see the thread that I'm talking about. But yeah, Bobby Portis is bad. He was matched up with Georges Niang in that early stretch of the fourth quarter. He was overhelping. He was losing him off the ball. It was ugly, right? But it's not just Bobby. Like, a lot of good defenders are making mistakes in the system. Like, Giannis is out of position a lot. Brook Lopez had a big crunch time overhelp where he stepped over and left Jared Allen wide open for like a little bank shot when he shouldn't have been helping. DeLon Wright, who's a career good defender at the guard position, botched a switch and gave up a layup. Like, they're just not sharp as a team. And that screams coaching to me. It screams to me that, like, from day one of training camp, there's not a lot of accountability and there's not a lot of attention to detail, because that sort of thing becomes contagious and it leads to good habits and it trickles down. Guys, like, there are a lot of teams out there, like the Lakers defense is 27th in the league, but they're 11th in half court defense, even though they have a ton of bad defenders, because they're at least like trying hard. They're locked in, right? Denver put together a championship level defense with Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Like, coaching is a huge part of constructing a viable defense. You've got to take your talented defensive players and you've got to direct them into like large things that make life easier so you can construct these small, achievable defensive roles for the players around them. Again, it's going to be difficult. I'm not expecting you to turn Bobby Portis into a lockdown defensive player, but like, Doc Rivers has this team legitimately bad in so many different ways on the defensive end of the floor right now that this was a stat I checked like 2 days ago, but they're giving up the highest efficiency to pick and roll ball handlers in the entire league right now. Like, you went and got Gary Trent Jr. and DeLon Wright to try to improve things at the point of attack, and somehow you got worse. Like, I think a lot of this ends up coming back to Doc Rivers, and I think he's got to do a better job coaching these guys up on a possession-by-possession basis, because right now they're just not sharp. They don't look like a serious basketball team, and I think that extends beyond personnel, even though we can all agree that there are some major personnel weaknesses on this team. What are some legitimate moves you can see the Nuggets making to strengthen their bench? They are the main reason I don't see them making it out of the conference, but it feels like they don't have enough trading power to fix it. So for me, like, I actually think Denver kind of falls into that category where it's less about finding like super high-end players and it's more about finding functional role players, because they're a team that's going to stagger their bench, right? Like, this is a team that everything in terms of their talent equity is invested in their starting lineup, right? Like, that's the core of this team. And most of their issues come down to the starters not playing well enough, right? Like, Jamal Murray is not playing like Jamal Murray yet. Michael Porter Jr. is not playing like Michael Porter Jr. yet. I think they will in time, okay? Then you stagger them with those bench groups, right? And so Jamal is going to be the guy who's determining a lot of those possessions when Jokic is off the floor. Michael Porter Jr. is going to be determining a lot of those possessions. What you need are useful role players that have some veteran experience and that just know how to play alongside other good basketball players. That could be like a Cam Johnson from Brooklyn or a Dorian Finney-Smith. Like, just a useful role player that comes in that knows how to play NBA basketball at a high level. Like, there's got to be an option there for Malone to go to in the event that these young guys don't pan out. It's when you're playing with these young guys where it's like, it's just such a cluster F every single game because you don't know what you're going to get, that it becomes very difficult to build consistency there. But eventually the Nuggets starters will play better. Eventually they'll be able to piece together, at least, again, with the Nuggets bench, it's not about being positive. It's about not completely combusting every single time Nikola Jokic steps off the floor. All these previous years when the Nuggets won the championship even, they typically lose the non-Jokic minutes by about 11 points per 100 possessions. This year, they're getting absolutely shredded when Jokic is off the floor. They've got to find a way to even that out a little bit. I had a lot of questions about from Warriors fans regarding This is the never-ending debate we have about whether or not the Warriors should make a trade at some point this season. It's like the most common mailbag question I get right now. I'll read a couple of them and I'll just kind of give some thoughts and then we'll move on. The first one, Dubs need to stand pat. They just learned a lot from the Houston game. It's about the defensive end. Which understack will improve. Houston attempted to emulate the Clippers. Kerr made some mistakes with regard to the fourth quarter lineup. Should have won there. And in the future, there will be less success with what Houston did and what the Clippers are. The D will get better, and then their offense is sufficient. A different mailbag question. All these analysts spend their offseason disrespecting the Warriors, saying that they won't make it to the playoffs, but now they see the Warriors are actually clicking, even winning games without Steph. All of a sudden, the talk has shifted to the Warriors need to make a trade for them to compete. Spare the Warriors, please. Admit you were wrong and analyze the game instead of pestering us with the trade talks. 2022 is a case study, but you never learn. So, guys, here's the thing. I try not to be too results based, right? Like, for instance, I'm a Lakers fan. You guys know that. I don't hide from that on this show. I'm a Lakers fan, and the Lakers have played the toughest schedule in the league, and they're 4-2. There's a lot of reason to be excited if you're a Lakers fan. There are a lot of Lakers fans that are starting to talk reckless a little bit, right? I have, through it all, looked at the games and been like, okay, yeah, there are wins here. Like, there's a win against Minnesota. But in the win against Minnesota, there was a long stretch in the second half where Dante DiVincenzo and Nickeil Alexander-Walker started really ball pressuring, and the Laker offense kind of fell apart because the guards aren't very athletic. And then it happened again in the Kings game, and then it happened again in the Raptors game. And so I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, yeah, 4-2, good. This is great. For the standings, it's great. Great start for the standings. They're heading into an easier stretch of their schedule now. I think the Lakers have a chance to be 11-4 after 15 games. Like, that would be, you got to be thrilled if you're a Lakers fan about that. But I also know that if you're going to get out of the Western Conference, you got to beat an Oklahoma City. You got to beat a couple of these teams from that other tier, like Memphis and Denver and Minnesota and Dallas and all these different teams, right? Like, it's just tough. And then should you get out of the conference, Boston's probably going to be waiting for you on the other side. And so I look at it and I go like, yeah, this is a good start for the Lakers, but I don't think they're athletic enough in the backcourt to really cause problems at the highest level of the game. I have to look beyond what their results have been to this point and look into the depth behind the results. That's kind of how I feel about the Warriors. The Warriors have 5 wins. That's great. 5-1 with Steph Curry playing 3 games, scoring 55 total points this season, and you're 5-1. That is a huge cause for celebration. But let's take a closer look. 3 of those wins are against teams that completely missed the play-in picture last year, and 2 were against the Pelicans, who were the 8th seed in the West last year, and they just traded 2 of their good role players for DeJounte Murray, who is now hurt. So, and they don't know what to do with the center position right now. They're kind of a mess. The Pelicans are kind of a mess. They just lost to Atlanta at home, and they lost to the Blazers earlier this year. So, look, it's still all very exciting. Last year, they had Steph out of the lineup for 8 games. They went 3-5. You've won the same amount of games without Steph already this year as you did the entire season last year. That is super exciting. They're clearly demonstrating that they have a much higher floor than they did last year. I would even go as far as to say that this team is cooking up something kind of special. Everyone seems to be buying into their roles, which was not the case last year. Jonathan Kuminga, it seems to be taking well to his bench role. He's been playing better since he went to the bench. The basketball character of this team is through the roof. Like, they're resilient, they're selfless, they're hardworking, they're coachable. It's all coming together. These are the ingredients of a special basketball team. Even further, and I talked about this early in the show, you could argue last year, after they had a rough end of the season, again, they went 22-31 against teams that were 500 or better last year. Steph didn't look like a top 10 player over the final third of the season. And then at the end of the season, they had 2 really big games that they had to win. At home against the Pelicans, they lost. On the road in Sacramento with a chance to go to the second play-in game, they got their butts kicked. Coming out of last season, there was a lot of people arguing like, this team's not worth making a trade for. This team, the core isn't good enough to justify really investing in. Now it's like, hell yeah, they're worth investing in. They've completely turned it around. Now they seem close. They didn't seem close last year. Now they seem close. That makes it worth the aggression. It's altogether a positive trend. It's a reason to be excited. I'm now just looking at it beyond that. Okay, now we have an exciting team. We have a 5-1 team. We have a real team here. Let's take a look at the roster. Let's take a look at what their strengths and weaknesses are. Let's be honest. Okay, Against the best defenses in the league, Steph is the only guy I trust on this team to create his own shot. Against the best defenses in the league. Against the highest levels, like I was talking about earlier with the Lakers. That's what I'm focusing on here. The best indicator of future performance is past performance. People were kind of down on the Warriors because in the past they didn't look as good. So that's what, like, I always think it's funny when people get upset about media underrating or overrating their teams. All of us are just trying to make predictions. And last year, it didn't look like this team was in there. This has been a surprise. This and the Cavs, these are the two biggest surprises of the season. Nobody was picking the Cavs to go 7-0. Did any of you Warriors fans pick the Cavs to go 7-0 this year? No, because you looked at them last year and you're like, they're middle of the pack Eastern Conference playoff team, right? This is an exciting trend. It is a reason to be excited. You guys have demonstrated that you were close in a way that did not seem to be the case last year. Last question. My man is so good he can predict the future. Kuminga is 22. The last time I checked, you had no idea Shea or Ant or Giannis would be at that level. Again, guys, let's just be honest. I really like Jonathan Kuminga. He's an exciting young player. The plays he made in overtime of the Houston game, they're freakishly talented type of plays. Giannis at 22 years old averaged 23-9 with 4 stocks per game, finished 7th in MVP voting, made the All-Star team, and was second team All-NBA. It averaged 25-10 in the playoffs. Anthony Edwards, his age 22 season was just last year. 7th in MVP voting, All-Star, second team All-NBA, averaged 28, 7-7 on 60% true shooting as a number one option for a Western Conference Finals team. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 22, averaged 24 points per game on 51% from the field, 42% from three, and 80% from the line. Guys, like, Kuminga's an exciting young player. He's not those guys. There is no foundational, transcendently great superstar among the young players in this Warriors group. That doesn't mean trade them for pennies, but if you have the opportunity to give this roster an opportunity to compete for a championship, I feel like you owe it. You owe it to Steph, you owe it to Draymond, you owe it to Steve Kerr. Now, because again, like if you do nothing, it's not like you fast forward 5 years and this is a championship team. There's no championship foundation there. You go look at NBA history. You don't win a championship unless you have a top 10 player. So again, like it's not about, and I'm not even necessarily saying you have to trade one of the young guys. You have depth. You have 13 rotation players. Hell, piece together 3 mediocre salaries that are not the young guys that you so desperately want to keep. You are uniquely equipped. Guys, like, I'm worried about the Lakers. The Lakers have like 7 rotation players that I trust, and that's if Vando's healthy. It's like Gabe and Vando are the only 2 that I trust. I don't trust Dalton Knecht. He's a rookie. Max Christie's looked awful. Jackson Hayes fouls too much and is legitimately a bad defensive player. Vando and Gabe are the only 2 guys that I kind of trust in the Lakers rotation. So if the Lakers have to trade guys and they have to give up 2 rotation pieces to get somebody back, I'm worried that they won't be deep enough anymore. You guys, the Warriors have like 7 different configurations of trades they could make that send out 2 or 3 players to bring back somebody high-powered where they still are deep, where they still are talented, where they still have everything they need to contend. You're in a great spot. Stop. It's not about talking about how you don't have enough just for the sake of being negative. It's just the realistic kind of nature of looking at what the NBA landscape is. Last question. Jason, I love you and your content, but man, it is too soon to know which team is and isn't a contender. Guys, it's my job to have an opinion on the season. It would be boring if I came out here every single day and was like, yeah, none of this matters. Talk to me in April. None of this matters. Talk to me in April. At the end of the day, this is content. And my job is to have an opinion. So yeah, like you're right. Everything here has a footnote. It's early, but I add that in here. But like my job is to have an opinion, to have a take. I'm going to come out with power rankings. I'm going to come out with contender rankings. I'm going to come out with player rankings, even though technically we don't really know what any of this shit looks like until we get further into the season. But that's just kind of the nature of how this goes.